my gosh, I have such a treat for you today. I am going to introduce Anna. Anna, say hi before I talk about you.
Hi. Hi, everyone.
Anna's awesome. And Anna is not going to be talking as a medium or a psychic today, but as an astrologer. And she's going to tell you some really incredible things. But I have to tell you, I met her and had two of my charts done, and she is spicy. And I got to tell you, I'm a little quirky, a little left of center, and I love spicy people. And so I think if you like spicy, she's going to resonate with you really well. I'm not kidding. She really is. She was saying things to me, and I said, Anna, you can't say that on the channel because
I'll make
you'll.
sure I won't say it.
It was like every 10 words, and it was cool, and I liked that, but it was no problem. But she won't do it today, so my video will be able to be uploaded. Let me tell you a little bit about her. She's a teacher, which is really great. She teaches fifth grade, and she's been teaching 9 years. She's just studied astrology for 14 years, and she went to an astrology college in Portland, Oregon at age 27. She's
Mhm.
32 now. Doesn't she look awesome? She
Thank you.
does reading for clients that she's had for years. She does not promote herself, and she gets new clients by word of mouth. And that's how I became her client because Chelsea Anderson had mentioned her. And we will have links at the end of the video. So if you want to have this done, you can do it also. I won't tell you her prices, but I just want you to know she's extremely reasonable. And she might be spicy with you when you talk with her. So, are you ready, Anna?
I am ready.
Okay. First of all, I need to ask about that college that you went to. Is it still in existence?
Um, I'm sure it is. I have not checked, honestly, since I graduated. I got my degree and I left. It was the Astrology Portland college, and they had a 1 year program at the time and a 2 year program. And so I was able to go for 1 year and graduate, but I didn't do the second year because I got pregnant with my son.
No, that's okay though.
Yeah.
Wow, I had never heard of that. And, I live in the area, so I was really surprised. So tell me, Anna, what got you interested in astrology?
Well, in astrology, okay, so I remember when I was young and I was a teenager, I remember my parents had Dish. Okay, so the network and there was this
Mhm.
section where you can check on your astrology and your sign and how your week is going to be. So I always check those, and that's how I was like, I wondered more about everybody else's sign and myself, and then I realized like, well, my dad's a Virgo and my mom's a Gemini and my sister's a Libra. So I became really interested. But growing up, there's this famous astrologer who has already passed away named Walter Mercado. And if you're a Latina or Latino, or, he comes in he's part of the culture. He's like a pop-up like astrologer in the news for that. It's in Spanish, and I grew up watching him, and so he would always
Oh,
tell us, I grew up with astrology, like seeing it, but really dove deep like in my teens. And that's when I started going. As soon as I turned 18, I went down to Seattle to the Seattle Old Library. And they were selling so many books, like old books for cheap. And I bought all the astrology books you could think of. And I just remember reading and reading and reading and learning my own chart, learning. And by 25, I was semi giving readings to people, but only family, because I was not confident enough yet. And that's when I went to that college, and everything that I have learned with them, I had already like taught myself that before. So
oh,
it
no.
confirmed that I'm like, okay, I do know what I'm talking about. So it was a good confirmation.
Do they give you certification at that college?
They do.
They do. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, something I want to do, but maybe others want to do that also.
They do. They'll give you, they test you and they make sure that, do you know your stuff? Do you know the signs? And they do it in a very good way. Like, it's not like, how do I say it? It is a lot of book work, right? Because
Hmm.
you have to know the degrees and the signs, but it's also very like, I don't even know what the word would be, like, artsy in a way. Like, We role played the signs and the energy. So it was very different for me. But they're really good. They're really good.
That's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like I said, I had two of my charts done. Can you tell us about the different charts that people have available?
Yes, there are so many types of charts that you can get in astrology.
Oh,
Many, many.
wow.
I only specialize in two, or it's the ones that I prefer. I won't do any other. But the main one that usually people get is their natal chart. And the
Mhm.
natal chart is the chart where the planets were in the heavens when you were born. Right? So that pretty much is let me tell you about you, your personality, and how your life will be or can happen, right? And then there is a solar return chart. Solar return chart is the day of your birthday to the next day of your birthday. That's your year, and it changes every year. It's never the same. That is where most of my clients come, and they come every year. So it's not like I'm constantly doing readings. That's why I don't promote myself. But it's just I have my regular that come right like a month before their birthday or after. And so that one tells me how is your year going to go from that day to the next. The problem is, and I always say the problem, is because people think that, no, I don't plan on having surgery. No, I don't. And see, when you come to astrology, you're not, this isn't something that I'm saying is going to happen now. It's literally a year. And if you think back, like a lot of things happen in a year. So I feel like people need to know that because if you get a solar return thinking, no, that none of this is going to happen, that's fine. But I still give the reading of like what I see. You know, how's your money? How's your communication? How's your career? How's your health? Right? So yeah, that's a solar return. And there's many other readings you can get, like a synastry reading, which is like a love reading between someone, two people, right? Kind of how you guys mesh. I don't do those. There's also like, are you compatible with someone, right? And those are charts like that. There's so many charts out there, but I only do those two.
And those are the two that you did for me, and they were incredible.
Thank
But
you.
then I found out that Virgos are really judgy. I had
Very.
to sit with, I had to sit with that because I try not to be judgy, but I know that I can be too. I
But we
just,
need that though, because, like, in my opinion, the best, and I'm a teacher,
mhm,
but I know the Virgo, like, you can tell when a teacher is a Virgo because they are very particular, very, no, we have to get this done. If we
mhm.
skip this step, we're not going to learn anything. I've known SLPs that are Virgos that are very particular, very detailed, and you know they're going to do their job right. Well, there's some of us like me, because I'm a teacher, where I'm like, you know what? We're just gonna skip this part. We're having such a hard time. I don't think a Virgo would skip that part. So
Yeah, hammer it
I don't
in.
know. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. We need that.
Okay, I want to go back and listen to mine, but I really love the solar chart. That was so cool for her to tell me things that were upcoming for the year.
Yes,
And also, I want to point out because you mentioned this to me, even if my birthday was in September, it's still going to go through this year. And you can even have a chart for the following year. Is that correct? Even
correct.
though, yeah. So I think that's really cool. So you know it's going to happen in the next year.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I
yeah.
played around with my solar chart when I was trying to get pregnant with my son,
Hmm.
and I would skip the years to see if I see the
Oh,
difference. So, and I did, and I was like, "Okay, I will have a baby," because I had troubles having babies.
oh, how
So
cool.
I did use that as a tool for myself.
Okay, very nice. I kind of wish you did the love chart, and I bet if I asked you, you would, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to ask you. Tell us about the 12 houses in astrology.
Okay, yeah. So there's 12 houses, and each house represents something in astrology. Okay. So the first house represents the house of self. So who you are as a person, what you value. And I'm going to keep this like just really short because you could really dive deep into each house, but I'm just going to give you like a brief explanation.
Okay.
And so, yeah, the first house tells me like if there are any planets there and it's touching other places in your chart, what is it that you value or how do people see you, right? Because it is rising, it's the rising, your rising sign, your first house. So it's also how other people view you or how you come off to them, right? Second house is your house of money, the house of also self-value. I feel like all the houses have some type of like what you value because it is your life. But the
Mhm.
second house is money, right? The third house is communication. Each house is also connected to the signs. So first house Aries, second house Taurus, money. Third house Gemini, communication. So it rules how do you communicate? What's your communication style? It also rules siblings, it rules cars, it rules neighbors. Your fourth house is the house of family. Okay, so Cancer. It rules like your actual home. How did you grow up? Where did you grow up? You know, fifth house is the house of kids. It's Leo. Leo rules
Oh,
kids. So it's the house of children, right? It's also the house of romance. And some astrologers could say passion, right? It's, well, how do you make kids, right? So it's passion, right? So it's also tied to the eighth house because the eighth house is that house as well. That's the fifth house. The sixth house is a very important house. It's the house of, well, all of them are important, but that one's the health house. How's your health this year or in life, right? It's also the house of daily routines. So what's your routine style? How do you get things done? What works best? If people have like the moon in their sixth house, those people overwork themselves. And when you overwork yourself, you get sick. So those people need to be more like self-care. So sixth house, health, daily routines. Seventh house is the famous house that I told you that everyone loves. It's the love house. Well, not the love house, it's the marriage. A lot of women come and want to know
for
if
the
they're going to get
marriage.
married. So the seventh house is contracts though, because marriage is a contract. So it's like it rules contracts, it rules the court, it rules partnerships. Partnerships, I mean, like if you were to start a business with someone, that is still like technically a marriage, but not really in that terms, but it's a
Mhm.
contract, right? So it'll tell you about what you attract or what you need or what you want. The eighth house is the house of death and it rules debt and it rules other people's money. So it rules banks. Okay, so this is a house. It also rules the eighth house is a big house. It rules like all anything occult, anything metaphysical. So it rules tarot, it rules metaphysical, it rules mediums, it rules astrology, it rules anything that is taboo. So if you think of it as taboo, it would be ruled by the eighth house. Okay, so
Oh,
it's a very spiritual home. The ninth house is the house of travel, and philosophy, and pretty much like education, higher education, philosophy, religion. And the ninth house it's a fun house, but it's a very smart house. So it's like, where are we going to travel? What are we going to learn?
mhm.
Let's do this. The 10th house is the house of career. So this is the career home. So people sometimes focus on that one. There's specific astrologers that can see and be like, okay, you should probably do this for your career. Depending on the sign and what planets you have here, it will affect your career. So what are you meant to do here? Right. And the 11th house is the house of wishes and the friends. It's a friendship home. It's like what you do for humanity. It's ruled by Aquarius. So that house is also a fun house because, I mean, who doesn't like hanging out with their friends? And it's also like what you want to do for the people. Okay, like what do you want to do? How do you want to affect people? And we call it the house of wishes because it's like this is the house where you would, if you do have like an eclipse here or something, like you could have something that you really want come true. The 12th house is the house of like, this is a dark home. So this home is like the self-reflection. When I gave you a reading, I was like, this could be like astrologers call it many things. The house of self-undoing, the house of depression, the house of like I need to look at my uglies and like see what's going on and like what's going on here in the dark that we don't like to show people, right? So
Yeah.
that's the 12th house. And so yeah, that's a summary of like how astrology works with the houses.
And you look at all those houses when you're doing the different two different readings that you do.
Yes, all of them.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
So it sounds like this could help us in our everyday life, kind of knowing, what's ahead or
Oh
coming
yeah.
or knowing what we're all about too, because sometimes we don't understand why we make certain decisions.
Mhm.
So it would really help with that.
It
Okay.
does. It helps to know it's called the transits. So if you know your transit, So you can study your transit, you can study your chart, and it's as simple as getting an app, but you need to know how to read it, right? But it'll tell you, like, you might be feeling off this day, right? Because the sun is squaring your moon, or like the moon is squaring Saturn or Pluto or whatever squaring. It could mean like you might have a rough day. It could mean that you might find out some news that you didn't think that you would, I don't know. It just totally affects things.
Can you explain a little more about transit?
Yeah, a transit is just like where the planets are now. So right now, the moon is in Gemini, right? And the moon is moving. The moon doesn't stop. It keeps moving into different signs. It does it every month, like
Right.
all the time, right? And of course, that means that the moon in our regular chart, it moves into
Mm-hmm.
houses, different houses. So if the moon is in Gemini, it's in my seventh house right now. So right now I have Gemini in the seventh house. So that just means that I'm going to be talking to more people, or I'm going to be spending time with my partner, or I'm going to be, doing that. So then the moon goes into Cancer in a day or two. I don't know exactly, because it just depends. That means I could want to just nest and be here, and I do get my kids tomorrow, so that would make sense. And it
Mm-hmm.
just moves on to my next house and my next house, and so it just keeps going. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
and it's not just the moon, it's all the other planets as
All the
well.
other, yeah.
So it totally affects everything. Yes.
Wow. Okay.
It's complicated. I know it's complicated. That's why they create apps, though.
But that's why I like you because you break it down and it's really easy to understand. Like what I understood everything you were telling me when we had those two charts done.
Yeah.
So
Oh, good.
that was nice. Yeah, it was great. Do you ever run across skeptics? Maybe
Yes.
not. Do you really?
Yeah, yeah. And I
Yeah.
respect, I mean, I respect it. I grew up with parents who were, of course,
Oh,
didn't believe in astrology, or but
mm-hmm.
but then there was a part of them that was very spiritual, like when you have an altar and you love the Virgin Mary and God, it's the same thing, right? That's who you love, that's who you're giving flowers to, and they were spiritual. It's a religion, it's a spiritual thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But anything other than what they know, of course, it's like, no, astrology, no.
Yeah.
Tarot cards, absolutely not. That's not of the religion or whatever, which is fine. So I grew up like that. So when I meet people that don't believe in it, that's okay. That's fine. I don't take it personal. I do try to analyze, and I'm like, I wonder what sign they are. Um, yeah, and I can tell when it's a earth sign that is getting a reading, like if it's a new person. Earth signs are Virgo, Taurus, Capricorn, and I can kind of pinpoint when it might be a earth sign. I've only had one reading where it was like, well, I'm spending this much money, and so I just want to know it's accurate. And I said, I just can only give you what I know, right? And if you don't like it, I'm sorry, but it's still a service. And so I can just try my best to be as detailed as possible. And as long as you give me your time of birth and it's accurate and it's not by memory, I think that we should be fine. So like, yeah, the signs they're all funny. The earth signs are a little sticklers sometimes. So it's okay.
I can never remember the time I was born, so I wrote it down, and so I always have that whenever I do something that's
Yeah.
going to be needed. Yeah, because I know
Yeah.
that's crucial. AM and PM and the time and the whole
It
thing.
is. It is. I have personally stopped readings when they don't know their time, right? And so when you don't know your time, you can still get a chart where all the planets are, but it could not be as accurate. And so I have stopped a couple readings where the person is like, no, that's not accurate. No, that never happened to me. And I'm like, okay, well, we're just gonna stop here because, why waste your time? Why waste mine? And then, we'll just keep it moving. So I have done that. So that's why when I do, like, when Chelsea has told me, like, I have so many people that want a reading from you, but I don't promote it. So I'm like, okay, I'll do it this weekend and this month. And she will actually like promote me, and I will get booked all day. But I try to be so strict
Wow.
with, please know when you were born. It's so important because I don't want to waste your time, you
Right.
know? I don't want to waste your time. I don't want you getting mad at me when you don't have your time. So anyway, Yeah.
This may seem like a no-brainer, but if somebody doesn't know their time, how can they find out?
On their birth certificate. If you don't know your time, because a lot, I mean, I'm 32, right? And I've been around astrology. Astrology is like part of my life. So even when we go to parties or whatever, can you give me like a quick little reading, right? And I'm like, do you know your time of birth? And so then let me call my mom. No, no, we're not calling moms because
Yeah,
you can call your mom, of course, and they will a lot of times. Honestly, I've seen them call their mom in the middle of the night to get their time of birth, just to get a reading. And yeah, the mom will be off like a minute or two or whatever, but at the end, like I was like, no, if you really want an accurate reading though, like I really suggest please check your birth certificate.
does a minute or two make a difference?
So from what I've seen, like yes, but I haven't seen it be a big difference on like 1 or 2 minutes. But I have seen it like I think it was like we were 7 minutes off, and
Uh,
it did that planet moved to a different house, so
it made a
it did
difference.
it can.
Hmm.
And you know, I if I'm giving you a reading, I want to be accurate because I want to give you something that's thoughtful or insightful, right? And so I always just make sure, like, please know your time of birth, you know, makes things easier.
I know that you did ask me to have that information before
Yes.
we met, so you
Yes.
could easily do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some of the most fascinating things you learned through your studies with astrology?
Through astrology, the most powerful thing, I guess, to me, is how your kids view you. I am a mom, and I
Hmm.
have a 4-year old and a 5-year old, and I struggled with fertility. So they are everything to me. And when they were born, was very like I need to see their chart. Now, if another astrologer watches your channel, there's going to be a gap between some astrologers. Like kid astrology is a thing, and I use it as a teacher. Like yesterday, I knew it was a full moon. My kids were crazy. Like it's
Hmm.
a thing.
It
And
is.
so
Yeah.
you know, and when I know a little kid is a Aries, right? I work with fifth graders, and if I know if it's their birthday or whatever, and I'm like, oh, that explains your temper, you know. So it just tells me about them. But anyway, when my kids were born, I went straight to I need to see their chart. I need to see their chart. I need to see how they view me. And so that was the most impact because like I had that tool and I have that knowledge that like
Mhm.
you can study your kid's chart and be like, my son is going to be so sensitive. You know, he's going to need to be nurtured differently than my daughter. So my daughter's going to be a little bit more independent, and I need to make sure that she's not too independent. Like I still want her to, you know, and they love me and I love them of course, but it's just insightful. That's the most strongest thing that I have. Is like I could look at a kid's chart and be like, that's how you view me. And this is what I can work on as a mom to try to love you the way you need to be loved.
I wish I had that when my kids are born. I mean, that would have been so helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And my kids are
Yeah.
so different, so that would have been really nice to know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
definitely.
So you can get charts for your other people in your life too. I like that.
Yes.
It's really kind of
Mm-hmm.
cool. Did I ask you about misconceptions about astrology that some people think about astrologers?
Oh, well, I don't know about what they think about astrologers per se, but
Uh,
I do need to clear one thing up.
okay.
People, when you read on the magazine or
Uh,
newspaper or whatever
mhm,
about astrology, you
mhm,
are not just a Virgo. You are not
mhm,
just a Gemini. That is your sun sign, yes. But you also need to look at where is your moon? Where is your Mars? Where is your Mercury? Where is your Venus? The example that I like to give people is I have a friend of mine who is a Sagittarius. She has one planet in Sagittarius, but everything else she has like in Scorpio. So she's like, I always read my Sagittarius and it's just never made sense. And I'm like, girl, like you're technically like, yes, you're Sag, but like you have that Scorpio energy. You need to be checking both. So now she checks both, but you are many things. Your chart is a wheel of 12 places, 12 houses, 12 planets, or not planets, but the planets could be elsewhere, you know, in a different sign. So that is something where people think I'm just a Gemini. Okay, well, if you only have one planet in Gemini, but you have everything else in Virgo, you're
mhm.
a Gemini Virgo. you need to check that. That is also important. It's just not just your sun sign.
Well, then I wonder how they get their information to print that and to say this is how your day is going to go.
So that's called a transit. So yeah, that's like day to day, like how's your day gonna go? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Well,
there's
like
apps for that.
I remember reading in the newspaper, this is what your day is going to do. And now in my email, I don't know, it gets sent to me. And sometimes I go, okay, that's great, or that doesn't even make sense. Yeah.
Yes, right. Exactly. Yeah. So you're more than just your sign. You're more than that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So we should just read for face value and just for fun.
I mean, you can. Yeah.
Okay. Instead of thinking, oh, this is going to happen to me today or something. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Don't put all
Yeah.
your. Mhm.
Don't put it all on that. No.
Okay.
No. Yeah. That's just me being honest as an astrologer. Like, it's
Mhm.
you're more complicated than that. But it's fun to read it, of course,
Oh yeah, I'll still read it. It's fun, but I'm
Yeah.
not gonna bank on it.
Mm-hmm.
Can astrology, knowing about these signs and about ourself, can that help with our strengths and our weaknesses?
Yes. Yeah. So, for example, well, let me see what you're trying to ask. Like, does it help us reflect on ourselves?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, it does. So, yesterday, it was a new moon or a full moon in Taurus. So,
It was
it
gorgeous too.
definitely, and it's beautiful. I don't know if you saw her.
Yeah.
But I hit up my Taurus friend Chelsea, who and I was like, "Hey, girl, it's a full moon today, so make sure you take it easy, relax today. It could be draining because it's in your sign. It might give you a lot of energy. You might overstimulate yourself. Blah blah blah." So yeah, knowing astrology, knowing where the moon is at, it could totally help you feed your how you should nurture yourself for the day. Right. She's a
Yeah.
Taurus though, so I just hit her up just really quick, just very fast. But it affects everyone. I mean, my kids weren't Tauruses and they go crazy every full moon. So it affects people differently, right? But I definitely think it totally helps. When the moon is in my son's moon sign, Aries, I know that he's going to be extra cranky. Like, it's going to be like, okay, he's going to be a little emotional today. So it definitely helps, in my opinion.
Yeah, it does. And I'm going to tell you to the audience, when she said it's a full moon and the kids are crazy at school, believe me, it's true. And we would
It's a
always
thing.
share that with each other. Oh my God, it's a full moon. And yeah, and it's not our imagination. It really does happen. The kids go a little crazy. Yeah, you got to
Yeah.
be prepared for it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's the famous Mercury retrograde. Have you heard of that?
Mm-mm.
Well, it affects everybody. But you and I are ruled by Mercury. You're a Virgo, I'm a Gemini. And everybody goes crazy during Mercury retrogrades. They think it's the end of the world, and it's not. Everything's going to be just fine. But it's a
Hmm.
time where we have to redo everything, rethink everything, go back and make sure we got everything, correct. It's just a time of reflection. And it's usually 3 to 4 weeks. And so people go crazy. I get it. But one thing for sure that I notice as an astrologer, as a human, as a person, I work at a school. So every time it's a Mercury retrograde, the printers are not working. Our
Yeah,
smart boards are not working because it rules technology.
yeah.
Mercury, like when it goes retrograde, it affects technology. And literally,
I've
like
heard
it's a
that.
thing. It's a thing. And the computer's not working, the Wi-Fi's not working at work. Like and it's terrible because then the kids are like, okay, so what do we do? Use a pencil and paper? Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a thing. Yeah. I see it. I see it when it happens, which is coming up soon actually.
Well, I know that Facebook will do that and they'll say whatever's going on and then how it will affect you, like
Mhm.
on your electrical devices, your cell phone, and all the other things. So
Yep.
I pay attention on those days.
Oh yeah. Yeah, those are the days where I'm like, okay, that means I can't go buy something technology like a new TV or a new phone. It's not a good time.
Not a good time. Okay, you have been fascinating. Is there anything else that you would like to mention? Something I
No,
missed or anything?
I don't think so, but if you have any questions or anyone else have any questions, contact me and we can go from there. But
Yeah, we'll
yeah.
do that. Yeah, I do have one more question. You mentioned tarot. Did you mention tarot, or did I hear that wrong?
Yeah, tarot, like the houses, I was describing like, oh, well, do I do tarot? Is that what you're
Yeah.
asking? I
Yeah.
have tarot cards. I have many decks, but I don't give tarot readings.
Okay. I love
Yeah.
tarot. I love tarot.
I'm not an expert enough to feel like I could give you a good reading. Like, no. I usually just do it for myself when I
Me
play with
too.
it. Yeah.
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 Okay. I had someone who was going to do tarot, and we started the interview, and she goes, "This is just not for me." And I said, "Okay, that's fine. We won't do it." So I am looking for someone that does tarot if you know of anyone too.
Oh, okay. For sure.
All right, Anna, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, and I hope a lot of people contact you.
All right. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.